Go.
A pleasant afternoon to each and everyone. For today, we are going to tackle about one of the famous literary pieces of Walt Whitman, and it is entitled "Oh Captain, My Captain." But before we moving on to give a poem analysis about it, let's watch its literary piece.
O Captain, my Captain, our fearful trip is done. The ship has weathered every wrack. The prize we sought is won. The port is near, the bells I hear, the people all exulting, while follow eyes the steady keel, the vessel grim and daring. But oh heart, 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 oh the bleeding drops of red, where on the deck my captain lies, fallen cold and dead. O Captain, my Captain, rise up and hear the bells. Rise up, for you the flag is flung, for you the bugle trills. For you bouquets and ribboned wreaths, for you the shores are crowding, for you they call the swaying mass, their eager faces turning. Here, Captain, dear father, this arm beneath your head, it is some dream that on the deck you've fallen cold and dead. My captain does not answer. His lips are pale and still. My father does not feel my arm. He has no pulse nor will. The ship is anchored safe and sound, its voyage closed and done. From fearful trip the victor ship comes in with object won. Exult, O shores, and ring, O bells, but I with mournful tread walk the deck my captain lies, fallen cold and dead.
And now, let me introduce to you about the author of the "O Captain, My Captain," and he is none other than Walt Whitman. Walt Whitman was born on May 31, 1819, and was died on March 26, 1892, at the age of 72. Walt Whitman was an American poet, essayist, and journalist. A humanist, he was a part of transition between transcendentalism and realism, incorporating both views in his works. Whitman is among the most influential poets in the American canon, often called the father of free-verse. His work was controversial in its time, particularly his poetry collection Leaves of Grass, which was described as obscene for its over sensuality, and which it was described also as the Whitman's own life came under scrutiny for his presumed homosexuality. And at the age of 11, he left formal schooling to go to work. Later, Whitman worked as a journalist, a teacher, and a government clerk. And Whitman's major poetry collection, which is Lips of Grass, was first published in 1855 with his own money and became well known. The work was an attempt at reaching out to the common person with an American epic. He continued expanding and revising it until his death in 1892. During the American Civil War, he went to Washington and worked in hospitals caring for the wounded. So his poetry often focused on both loss and healing. So two of his well-known poems are the "O Captain, My Captain" and the "When Lilacs Lost in the Dooryard Bloomed" were written on the death of Abraham Lincoln. So after stroke towards the end of his life, Whitman moved to Camden, New Jersey, where his health further declined. And when he died at age 72, his funeral was a public event.
Good afternoon. And for the rhyme scheme, here we have A B XC unrhymed lines. The opening couplets of the first two stanzas establish a happy mood, which juxtaposed with the shortened succeeding lines brings out the disappointment experienced by the poet over the captain's death. The first two stanzas begins with two happy couplets, and for the second stanza with two celebrating couplets, but sometimes it's not quite right as demonstrated by the rhyme of bells and trills. And for the third stanza, re-establish the rhyming couplets pattern, but the message is a clear as the rhyme, the captain is dead. Whitman also introduces an interesting rhyme scheme. The pattern is that AA, BC, EE, FE, and GG, HI, JEKE, and LL, MNO, EPE for each respective stanzas. It is important to note that not all of the rhymes are perfect rhymes. It is also for the greater importance to recognize by the designs. Next, please. And for the supporting lines that deals with the title, in the title of the poem, there is apostrophe. It is a term in the poetry for the speaker's call for someone who's not actually there. After the death of the captain, the speaker is in the position of making this emotional appeal to a person who can no longer respond to him, which is the captain who is already dead. And here are the lines from the poet, from the poem. O captain, my captain, our fearful trip is done. O captain, my captain, rise up and hear the bells. My captain does not answer. His lips are pale and still. Next, please. And for the setting, this poem is set on a ship that's coming into harbor. Of course, of Whitman, this was much more than a ship. This was as U.S. America had he was talking about. Um, this poem was about the American War, which the president is Abraham Lincoln that was assassinated that time. This poem used ship as the symbol of the crowd at the shore may also present in this poem. Next, the next one is symbolism. The symbolic nature of a captain bringing his ship safely into harbor was too much for Whitman to pass up. He milks the analogy for all that it's worth. Like what I have said earlier, it was the Americans' war. The captain symbolizes as the president, which is Abraham Lincoln, and the ship represent as their country, and the crowd, the cheerings at the shore represents the entire American population. In short, the symbolic significance that Whitman uses is to mourn and celebrate for Abraham Lincoln's victory and death. And next is for the figurative, here is Julian Manaog to take over.
For figurative language, the entire poem is an extended metaphor or figurative language that implies comparison between seemingly unlike things. For the United States, after the Civil War and Abraham Lincoln's assassination, in metaphor, the captain is Lincoln, the voyage is the war, and the ship is the United States. Whitman uses this figurative language to make his poem seems more complete and to keep the right rhythm and rhyme scheme for the right parts. At the same time, he is focusing to the reader's attention on what he wants to say. Next, please. These are the possible questions that answerable from the poem. What did you feel after reading the poem? What is are the theme of the poem? What is the mood or tone of the poem? Next, please. For the conclusion, victory and loss are thus closely intertwined throughout the poem. On the other hand, its mourning is tempered with joyful reminders that the war is won. Also, poem illustrate the pain and trauma of losses sustained in the war, the victory of human loss. It is where the first part of the poem was described their victory against Spaniards and they received the prize that they won. Yet, it followed by the saddest part where their captain died. It was a painful irony that its celebration are intended to honor the leader who won the victory, yet their captain was not there to witness their triumph. Next.
Thank you for that, Ms. Manaog. Let's move on to the poem analysis. The major theme of the poem is death. It is actually a form of elegy or a funeral song wherein the speaker sings about the perils of the trip and the demise of his captain. Victory was achieved afterwards, and the vessel conquered the seas though the captain is no longer there to celebrate the victory. This line, "O captain, my captain, rise up and hear the bells, rise up, for you the flag is flung, for you the bugle thrills," talks about the victory or the end of the trip. Now, again, this can be historically traced since this poem was made in honor of Abraham Lincoln, the great American president, and this was written at the end of the war. Next, while the death of the captain is written at the ends of each stanza. This poem, historically speaking, was created by the author, again, as an elegy to express his respect and to mourn the loss of the American President Abraham Lincoln. The poem is riddled with loss, in between the lines and mourning in its core, though what stays in the mind of the readers is the overwhelming expression of love for the dead captain. The poem was also full of strong figurative languages like metaphors, assonances, apostrophes, and alliterations. This powerful use of figurative language effectively delivered the message of the poem and added to its artistic value. All in all, this poem by Walt Whitman was very well created, and it struck a string in our hearts, and it made us feel the overwhelming respect that the author has for Abraham Lincoln. And that is it for us, Group 4. Thank you for staying with us for this webinar. See you next time.